3 unharmed after forced plane landing. Brush fire north of Main Street in St. George quickly extinguished. And your daily weather forecast coming up with highs, lows, and everything you need to know for the days ahead.
You're watching St. George News at 5, brought to you by our studio sponsor, We Win Injury Law.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica McLaughlin. A pilot was forced to make an emergency landing near the Arizona-Utah border after an engine malfunction, with all 3 passengers escaping safely before the engine caught fire. We'll go to Nick Fiala with more details on the response and ongoing investigation.
An engine malfunction forced an airplane pilot to land in the wilderness near the Arizona-Utah border Sunday night, several miles south of State Route 7. This footage, captured from a security camera in the neighborhood, shows the hectic but controlled landing. And this footage, sped up for time, shows the pilot's engine catching fire and sending an ominous pillar of smoke into the night sky. This submitted footage captures it from another angle. First responders arrived at the scene not long afterwards. They found the pilot and his crew, a father and daughter, all safe and unharmed despite the ordeal they'd been through.
Thanks, Nick. St. George Fire Department crews quickly contained a small brush fire near Brooks Nature Park, which reportedly may have been sparked by fireworks. We'll go to Eric Gould for the details.
A small brush fire was quickly extinguished by the St. George Fire Department Saturday night. Battalion Chief Rick Nelson told St. George News that about a quarter of an acre of brush was burned by the fire before it was put out. He said there were no injuries or damage to structures. Nelson said witness reports spoke of teenagers in the area lighting fireworks, but those reports were not confirmed, he said. A brush fire at almost the exact same location, Brooks Nature Park, was doused earlier this year in April.
Thanks, Eric. Now we'll take a look at your daily weather forecast brought to you by Casablanca Resort and Casino. Currently in St. George, it's a warm 76 degrees. Expect a low tonight of 51 degrees, with some rain likely in the overnight hours. Tomorrow, temperatures will cool down with a high of just 57 degrees and a low of 40 by evening. Right now, Mesquite is at 82 degrees. Overnight temperatures will drop to a low of 56. Tomorrow's high will reach 64 degrees with a low of 45 expected. In Cedar City, a wind advisory remains in effect until 9 p.m. this evening. Conditions are cooler with a current temperature of 64 degrees. Tonight's low will dip to 32 degrees and tomorrow, highs will peak at 38 with a low of 21 expected overnight. And now let's check in on the latest in local sports. Here's Aaron Crane with all the highlights and updates from the weekend's big games.
Thanks, Monica. This past week in sports, in the first round of the 4A state playoffs, Region 9 teams came out strong. Desert Hills dominated at home, crushing Jordan 62-14, with quarterback Garrett Grondel throwing multiple touchdown passes and leading his team to their 5th consecutive win. Next, they'll face Stansbury on the road. Dixie had a thrilling rematch with Pineview, avenging their earlier loss with a 48-35 victory. Dixie's Rand Sawyer scored 5 touchdowns, helping the Flyers advance to play Provo. Hurricane clinched their first playoff win since 2015, defeating Cedar 37-14 at home, while Snow Canyon forced 5 turnovers to upset Murray 27-7, securing a rematch against Crimson Cliffs. Desert Hills High School has claimed yet another Region 9 volleyball title, making their 8th in the past 11 years. The Thunder clinched the championship with a decisive 3-0 sweep over Pineview. Desert Hills heads into the state tournament as the number 5 seed, while Region 9's top seed Crimson Cliffs enters at number 4. Cedar, which finished second in Region 9, is seeded 11th and will host Pineview in the first round this Saturday. Now back to you, Monica.
Thanks, Aaron. Shandon Gale Young, a 43-year-old from Hurricane, faces felony charges of theft by deception and a misdemeanor count of communications fraud, among other charges, after allegedly scamming a buyer in a horse sale. Young has been involved in several cases in Washington County since September. The buyer sent Young payments totaling $600 for a 10-year-old mare, only for Young to delay the delivery with excuses, eventually halting communication and allegedly allegedly selling the same horse to others. Currently jailed on a no-bail hold, Young also faces charges from prior cases involving similar fraudulent schemes. Southern Utah's housing market is becoming increasingly challenging for low-income families, veterans, and seniors, with the nonprofit Switchpoint in St. George offering essential resources and shelter to those in need. Here's Gavin Kandari for more on Switchpoint's programs and the community's response to the region's growing housing challenges.
With rising home prices and rents in southern Utah, finding stable, affordable housing has become increasingly challenging. Switchpoint, a nonprofit in St. George, is addressing this issue by offering both shelter and support to the community's most vulnerable members.
Shelter is meant to be a very temporary situation, which over the last couple years especially, that's become more and more of the obstacle to overcome, because we've got to have some place to move them. You can't solve homelessness without a roof to put over their heads.
As of October 2024, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in St. George is nearly $1,900, while median home prices exceed $500,000. Meanwhile, the individuals served by Switchpoint have an average monthly income of less than $800, with veterans, seniors, and low-income families being some of the fastest-growing groups facing homelessness.
I was at the shelter again for 4 days living out of my car, and they came out and got me, knocked on the window of my car. And
programs like the Point and the River Rock Project are part of Switchpoint's broader efforts to increase affordable housing options. However, with a waiting list of over 400 people, the demand for permanent housing remains high.
There's not enough housing, enough opportunities for people to where they can afford a place to live. People get scared. What they're unaware of, they get scared of. And people don't like change. But not every homeless person is a drug addict. Not every homeless person is, committing crimes. There are homeless people that are just homeless because they cannot afford. Their fixed income does not allow them to have their own place. They can't afford an apartment.
Despite efforts to expand affordable housing, local projects often face opposition from the community. Concerns over high-density housing developments continue to arise as residents express apprehension about the potential impact on neighborhoods.
We cannot do this alone. We need builders to chip in. We need our city to chip in. And we need the community at large to recognize that we absolutely need this here. Our children, there's no way my children could afford to purchase a home here. We need the community to get on board and not NIMBY us, not be afraid.
Switchpoint remains focused on finding solutions to the housing crisis, emphasizing the importance of collaboration between nonprofits, local governments, and community members in addressing homelessness in southern Utah.
Thank you for watching St. George News at 5. To learn more about our studio sponsor, We Win Injury Law, go to wewininjurylaw.com. I'm Monica McLaughlin with St. George News, your #1 source for local news.
This has been St. George News at 5, brought to you by We Win Injury Law.